The Holden Racing team have been fined $1,000. Watch to the front of the car. Car controller Jeff Grech cleans some grass from the front spoiler. Now, under the pit lane rules for safety, the car controller is not allowed to do that. His role is to guide the car in and make sure it gets out cleanly and safely. Now, if this was detected during the race, Scaife should have received a stop-go. If it was detected after the race, the total time added to his race time. Neither of those has happened, and that's incensed his fellow competitors in pit lane. Greg Rust is with team manager Jeff Grech.
Well, there's been some conjecture in between race 2 and race 3. Jeff Grech, and a fine coming to the way of the Holden Racing team. What's happened there?
Yeah, what happened was, Rusty, that the car went off into the grass, and you know, by the it's complex because at long distance races, a car controller can clean the radiator, and at the short ones he can't. You know, he can't. You're not allowed to touch the car. So basically, what happened, Rusty, is the cars come in. He said, I've been off in the grass, it was full, and I didn't think. I was a car controller, and I got fined, which, look, you know, it was against the rules, but, you know, it was, I had no choice. The car would have overheated, and he would have been back in the pit again. So, you know, we just had to do it. Just quickly, were you, or was Mark or the team fined? Who was actually fined? No, it was a team, or basically the car controller. So I'm short $1,000.
Well, that's even worse for you because you'll be taking out of your pay packet for the beers tonight too. So you're down a couple.
Exactly. We might be having the empties.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
I tell you what, that's a very cheap price to pay, Neil, for winning a race, isn't it? Well, keeping your race win.
Yeah, or you're keeping your position and your points. Certainly got plenty of people up and down pit lane dancing at the moment.
I can remember at Adelaide when HRT's wheel went into the sort of pit road in and out, and they only got fined there, didn't they?
Well, following on from that, let's hear a reaction from another team manager, Ford's Alan Heafy.
Yes, Alan, what's your take on the penalty dished out to the Holden Racing team?
Well, I don't think it's correct, really. If the infringement was done during the race period, they would have got a stop-go penalty for it. And my understanding is that if it was found out after the race had completed, then there should have been that stop-go penalty time added to the race time of that car that was in that infringement. So I don't think it's correct. I mean, it's an easy $1,000 to keep a race win. I mean, I'm not in agreement with it at all.
Jeff was saying that it was only a matter of confusion on his behalf. Some races you're allowed to do it, some you aren't. Is confusion enough of an excuse?
Well, I mean, it's pretty specific in the regulations. You get what you can and can't do, and if they don't read them correctly, that's their problem. But I think there's only 2 races in the whole series that allows you to clean the grill out. It's very much a safety issue, and I mean, again, there's another occasion when sometimes they get away with things I think that possibly they shouldn't, but that's my opinion.
Let's hope you can do the business in the race.
We'll do our best.
Thanks, Alan.
Nothing like a bit of controversy to spice up the last race of the year, is there? We get ready for this third and final race, and we have had it confirmed that it is a safety car start. There's quite a bit of water laying around this 3.1 kilometre Sandown circuit. This will be a tough one.
And just to define that, you can see the amount of standing water on the road. The race director and stewards have deemed that to start the cars from a standing start side by side, where there is a lot of water, in particular to the inside of turn 1, is extremely dangerous. So the cars will file on behind the Munro safety car, and at an appropriate point the lights will switch off and it will peel into the pit lane in the same way that it does during the race.
Well, let's take a look at the Shell Helix starting grid, and this is a reflection of the results of the second race. Qualifying positions, race 2 results there on your graphic as well, but a marvellous win and the first ever 1-2 for the Kmart Commodore team. Lowndes will start third, Scaife, Ambrose, Radicic. Barguana's having a very consistent weekend, and Stephen Richards from 8th.
Reminder, the extreme right-hand column of boxes there is where they started race 2, so you get an idea of how they're going throughout the day. Jason Richards, great effort to get into the top 10. Stephen Ellery there too. Jason Brighton, Brad Jones, John Faulkner and David Bernard, Simon Wills and Paul Wheel.
And Paul Wheel starting from 16th can confirm that he just simply aquaplaned in race 2. That's why he spun in front of Russell Ingall and collected the Armco.
Glenn Seaton, Cameron McConville, Dougal McDougall, Paul Morris, Stephen Johnson. That was a blown engine, so they've done an engine change in between races 2 and 3. Anthony Tratt, Larry Perkins and Paul Romano starts off the back.
Well, again, repeating, this will be a safety car start. Greg?
Well, not everybody's happy about it being a safety car start either, Gary.
No, Greg, I'm not, to be quite honest. I mean, certain decisions are made that we have no input into, and I suppose if that's the rules, you have to abide by them. But, I mean, these guys are professionals. They should know what they're doing. And, I mean, it's been raining all day, and most of these drivers have raced in the wet before. And to be quite frank, these cars were going faster at the first corner from a rolling start than they will from a standing start.
There you have it. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
We're really whipping up a frenzy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I tell you what, there was a nasty accident in the Formula 4 race. Luckily enough, nobody was badly hurt.
And also in the sports sedan race.
Right in the middle of just after the start and finish line. And
maybe the point that Gary has not considered there is the reason the cars are going to go around is to disperse some of the water.
Disperse some of the water, yeah.
And,
I think you're right.
He's right. No, they're professionals and they know what they're doing, but I don't know whether he's spoken to any other drivers in the field, but there are not too many people out there that are impressed with the idea of a cold tyre standing start driving through puddles to the first corner. It's common sense.
If you look here, just about there where Todd Kelly is a hell of a lot of standing water, and just after that is where Ambrose, just here. So this is where the Formula 4 guys went off. So as it stands here now, what's this? This is the first lap of the race then, in other words?
Well, that's an interesting question, but you need to see the safety car to ultimately determine when the lights go out before they go racing. I'd need to actually be in contact with the stewards to find out whether, in fact, they have waved the green flag or whether there's been a light system to determine that the actual race has been started. But, yeah, I understand that, in fact, they have started to now lap score.
Yeah.
So there's different ways that you could define it. So there's been a definition in race control that the race has been started, the safety car will peel off and then they'll go racing. And what they'll be looking for is information from corner workers to determine how much water has been dispersed as the cars move around. The other important aspect of this is that everybody's getting a chance to warm their tyres and brakes in order to be able to effectively go racing cleanly.
But it does, as you rightly say, it does really disperse a lot of the standing water, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and the two previous races have been very nasty accidents, so I think there's certainly grounds for it. I wouldn't say that it's red-hot controversial that they start behind a safety car. I think it actually makes sense.
I'm sure you're right that Gary Rogers didn't... what Gary was thinking was that they didn't want the guys to start go rushing into the first corner on cold tyres, and not so much thinking about dispersing the water, I suppose.
Mark Scaife, centre of the controversy after race 2, and a man who will finish this race and celebrate tonight his back-to-back efforts in the Shell Championship Series. It's been a marvellous season for him, 2001, and will be trying as hard as he possibly can to finish on a high. He's got a couple of very fast cars in front, the Kmart Commodores and Craig Lowndes. The Ford race analysis. Well, we're already underway. 48 laps. We're eating into that 150 kilometres. And the pit window is the same as the previous 2 rates for that compulsory pit stop. Laps 2 to 35, that window is.
We will do one more lap behind the safety car before it leaves the front of the field, pulls into the pit lane area, and we go racing. Greg?
Just to confirm on that, because they've done one lap now underneath the safety car. The first one was a warm-up lap. They've just completed lap 1. So this could catch a few people out here in terms of when that pit window opens, the technicality factor.
Yeah, you're right about that. You need to be onto it. In fact, the teams have got a race control channel, so the team managers or car controllers will hear the status of the race over the radio, and they'll know. They hopefully will know what the situation is.
So Jeffrey.
No problem, Jeff.
Plenty of pressure on the team managers to get strategy right. This is the final race of the year. Everyone wants to finish in the best possible fashion. Lights are out on the safety car, so we are ready to go green. Well, I guess we already are green, sort of, because we have started ticking over those laps, but racing for real.
The other point that needs to be made is that it certainly doesn't indemnify everybody from having an accident. There's still enormous potential for chaos in these conditions at the best of times. And as they cross the start-finish line at the end of this lap, the pit window will be open, although I don't know that there's anybody going to be diving in the early stages until this sorts itself out.
Just about got some heat in their tyres now. They will come in now and change.
Get a little bit of benefit out of heat soak from the brakes, and everybody will have been cycling the brake pedal pretty aggressively.
So ready to go racing. The safety car will leave the circuit. Lights are out, and we are getting ready to go now. Here we go. Todd Kelly brings them onto the main straight. After 2 laps, pit window is officially open. And we begin the final race of the 2001 season. Look at Scaife on the inside of Lounds, side by side. The number 1 HRT machine is there. That's a successful move.
Another Kmart 1-2 as they come through Holden Corner under full green, full speed racing conditions in this very slippery track. It's a Kmart 1-2 as they finished race 2. Look at Scaife splashing through the puddles right up against the curbs there. Craig Lowndes right in his mirrors, and then there's the Pertec Ford.
Bargwanna was very quick too to nip up the inside of Paul Radicic, so he's moved up 1 position already.
You find that many of the turns, Lowndes has gone up the inside of Scaife going up the back straight, and I think actually made a move on him. Got better traction coming off turn 4 as they head to the end of the back straight. Holds position, Scaife with the lights on, takes it back again under brakes and reclaims 3rd spot.
Brave stuff up there, top speed. You're looking at around 250 kilometres an hour, very fast in these treacherous conditions. Meanwhile, the 2 Kmart Commodores are starting to just edge away a little.
Plenty of pressure here from Craig Lowndes. Look at the rain just pouring down. It's really opened up. 2 Kmart Commodores. Lowndes has looked down the inside, well positioned. Scaife gives him room, or does he?
No, he's got better position for the final turn. It's an old trick at Sandown, and he's used it before. And they crisscross again. So again, Lowndes up the inside. Is Scaife peeling off? No, he's running with him. So tremendous battle for 3rd and 4th between old teammates Lowndes and Scaife. Now Mark goes to the inside for another crisscross, and the Ford and Holden fans go nuts in the stand.
And Kelly has pitted. Kelly has pitted. The race leader is the first to come in, as was the case in race 2. And so too is Jason Bright. So Bright has beaten him out of the pits. So it was a successful strategy in the opening race. Scaife thought about coming up the inside of Craig Lowndes.
I think
Ambrose went in as well.
I was going to say, Bryce just coming in.
He's coming in, actually.
So
He's right at the end, isn't he?
Yep, Kelly's pulled the right rein here. It worked for him in race 2. He's probably figured that's the way to go in race 3.
Knowing that they were going into a wet race that was likely to...
Hang on. Follow him out.
That's the car controller there, just getting him to hang on and sit in behind the other car. You can't go out side by side. Knowing that they were going into a wet race that was likely to continue to be wet throughout the 1 hour, several people have certainly made changes to their cars now in this race, Mark, in order to try and suit the conditions better. It's not something they often do, but they are actually setting the cars for the wet in some cases.
Brighty, Jason Bright's car, he said, was terrible because he apparently runs his car really a lot harder than the other 3 HRT cars, so he's softened his thing up quite a lot. Also, Glenn Seaton, there was another one, he said his car was undrivable.
Yeah.
So a number of drivers took that opportunity to pit early.
And they may relax the spring rate in the car, perhaps make shock absorber setting changes, may change the anti-roll bars on the car.
I tell you what was interesting, I was talking to Brad Jones. When he came in for a pit stop in the first race, he said the car was terrible. When they took the rears off, they adjusted the dampers. They said it was worth wasting an extra 5 or 6 seconds because he went out and made that 6 or 7 seconds up in a couple of laps.
Gap closing slightly between Murphy and Lowndes, who's just eased fractionally away from Mark Scaife. Bargwanna 4th. Bradley Jones, the man you were talking about, then Barry is up to 5th.
Keep in mind the battle for 2nd and 3rd in the championship here as well. Greg Murphy at this stage, the Kmart racing team are saying stay out, don't come in. Jason Bright, by comparison, has been in one of the first to do his stop.
If you're buried in the pack at the moment, look how dirty that road is out there. That's why some people are coming in. You lose so much time when you're lost in the fog. In the car, it's like sitting in behind a semi-trailer at 100 k's on a wet road and switching the wipers off. It's a brownout. It's not all nice like it looks from the outside here.
Bargwanna's on the move. He's starting to make a little ground on Scaife at the moment. Top 4. Greg Murphy, Craig Lowndes, Mark Scaife, Jason Bargwanna, Brad Jones sitting in the top 5 at the moment, yet to pit.
Bargs has been looking forward to the rain the whole weekend. When I saw him miss, he said, oh, I hope it absolutely buckets down. Oh, listen to that.
And he's in. He's coming in.
So too Murphy. Murphy peels off. So the top 2 on the road, they are in. Bargwanna, Scaife is in as well. Bargwanna continues.
So the leaders all taking their cues from each other. It puts Bargwanna to the top of the order. Murph's job done quickly and efficiently. Scaife, on the other hand, is at the other end of pit lane.
Remember that lightning pit stop in the 8-second bracket. Can they repeat that?
You reckon Jeff will bend down and do anything this time? I don't think so.
It's a good stop so far. 6 seconds gone. Greg Murphy trundles past us. Will Craig Lowndes get out ahead of Mark Scaife? The controller stops him. We've got a problem on the front right here. This is a long stop for Mark Scaife.
The man you got to watch, though, is Todd Kelly. He's done it again. He was the first in the queue to pit. See where he is on track when Mark Scaife rejoins.
That was costly.
Yeah, really. Very lucky as well, actually, that the wheel was just on the hub, wasn't it, when they dropped it down?
Get back in your river, mate. Obviously, that was a cocker.
It sure was. But that's the kind of pressure that the teams are under, and it was only in the previous...
Skates run off. He's run wide. Turn 1.
Cold tyres, very wet track.
And frustration.
Bit more grass in the front.
You're right, mate. Have a breath.
I was going to say, this is the pressure that the crews are under. It was only a race ago we were talking about what an amazing job that they've done of doing an efficient stop, and everybody up and down the pit lane, not just drivers but crews as well, are under pressure. They've got to perform, and every now and again things go wrong. That's the beauty of the pressure in the pit stops as Bright goes by.
Gone past.
I'm just wondering if Todd Kelly's had a moment out there, because Greg Murphy came in later, and Murphy is now remaining ahead of him on the road.
He's got
We're waiting for it to trip up?
Yeah,
or?
it's got to allow for that timing monitor to trip up, see their true positions on the circuit. It's always a bit confusing when the pit stops are happening.
The rain's actually getting a little heavier since the commencement of the race, but just to touch on what Neil was saying before, it really is interesting just to watch the way the teams and team managers are keeping an eye on what everyone else is up to. Originally, the plan at Kmart Racing was to keep the early leader Murphy out for much longer, but I think there's a bit of reaction to what other teams are up to, and they changed their plan.
Certainly, in order to stay in step with the race and not disadvantage yourself in some way, shape or form, there is a theory that suggests it's worthwhile staying in tune with what the leader or leaders are up to. Look at the pressure on here. If it gets an awful lot wetter, I mean, we're not in that zone at the moment, but if it continues to get heavy wet, I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't run the full distance.
Well, we can confirm that this is effectively the battle for the leaders. Lounds goes up the inside.
Contact.
Bit of contact between the former teammates. It looks like another hit between them. But these guys are running 10th and 11th, but they're effectively the race leaders. They're the first cars that have made their compulsory stops, and they're storming through the field. So Craig Lowndes now gets in front of Greg Murphy. Brilliant stops from both of these pit crews to get them in such a strong track position.
I was going to say, I reckon if the rain gets much worse, Neil, we're going to really have to watch out on the front straight with aquaplaning, because there's getting a hell of a lot of surface water around now.
Yeah, sorry, Barry, there was an awful lot of tippy-toeing from Craig at the end of the back straight that time. When you get out of those what looked like wheel tracks and into the slippery area, look at this move at turn 4. Lowndes up the inside under power, second gear.
Whoa! One hit.
Murph turns in, but Craig was well and truly underneath him, and the two of them continue to bump and grind all the way, and Murph will be frustrated.
Oh, dear me.
Now, there's a lot of garbage in the front of that thing, so that's going to be an issue. He's gone off at turn 9.
He's still in front of Murphy.
Is he?
Yes, Murphy is just behind.
That's going to affect the water temperature of that car.
That was the same as Mark did earlier on.
Look at the amount of grass.
Severe.
No doubt the officials will ping Lowndes that.
Well, why?
cutting corners or whatever.
Well, they didn't with Mark.
Well, they didn't with Mark.
Yeah. Oh, we did it in HRT, though.
So, Bargwanna leads on the road. Here's the replay, the Shell Helix replay. Watch Craig Lowndes.
Oh.
Tried to pull it up, couldn't quite, and continued straight on.
You can't...
So straight across that grass area, the race leader, and there's Murphy in the background. He's been able to rejoin the circuit.
You don't get penalties for stuff like that. You get penalties if you do something that's blatantly fragrant.
Yeah.
You know.
What's the chance? There's little or no chance of getting on the brakes, stamping on the brakes, and getting
Murphy.
Getting some of that out.
So plenty of action here at the V8 Ultimate. This is the third and final race. It is the last race of the year. We're going to wait and see here if Craig Lowndes will come in. Will he try and come in for a quick...
Well, they'll be waiting to see what the water temperature does before they make any bizarre strategy that would take them out of the lead of the race.
Welcome back to Sandown, the V8 Ultimate. The action continues. Glenn Seaton very fortunate not to roll the Ford Tickford AU as it comes to rest in the turn 1 sand trap. Quite a treacherous turn, that one, the view from overhead. And he's certainly not the first, and certainly won't be the last to have done that in turn 1.
Funny, that's just what we were talking about before. But it's so bad now, isn't it?
Now, just a little bit earlier, Craig Lowndes took the opportunity to come in and let the crew try and clear that grass and all that garbage out of the radiator, even had the hose in there trying to wash it away.
And just to clarify, that's not the compulsory stop that
these
people are doing for tyres. That's a stop to actually clean the rad.
So he's allowed to come in under safety car just to do other stops apart from compulsory tyre stops.
Under safety car conditions, you're not allowed to take your compulsory stop.
Now, Another one of the victims like Glenn Seaton, but not in the same style as Paul Radisich. He's with Greg.
Well, Paul, you're out of this one. What a hard way to end the season. What's happened? Is it a similar problem to Stephen's misfire?
It's sort of, it's the way it's gone from us, really. It just sums up the year. Very disappointing, and at the moment it's just running on 6 cylinders, and you know, and even in weak conditions, it just hasn't got enough power to keep up with the other guys. So it looks like it's more terminal than rather just putting on a couple of leads. So disappointing, but we'll come back next year.
What's it like driving out in these conditions at the moment?
It's impossible to see. I mean, you know, more chance of winning the lottery and staying on the track out there. It's just so slippery. You cannot see anything.
VB time and watch it on the box, won't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Cheers, thanks.
It's been a pretty cruel race too for Jason Bargwanna at the front there behind the safety car. Before Glenn Seaton's incident, he had in excess of a 40-second lead.
Oh, what a shame.
And now he still has to complete his compulsory pit stop, and he's lost all of that margin.
It's incredible, the DJR problems they've had with engines this year.
Yeah, where was it? Darwin,
yeah,
where they lost all their
both.
engines. And
Mount Panorama, they lost one. Radisich lost one there. Stephen lost one in race 2. They've had a number of engine problems, which is most uncharacteristic of DJR.
This incident involving Glenn in the number 5 FTR Ford started in the braking area to turn 1, where he just aquaplaned big time and slammed the fence on the right-hand side. That's what dislodged the front wing assembly, and then ended up down there in the gravel.
All fun and games here at Sandown as we are back under green. The safety car has left the circuit. Brad Jones also after some contact with Stephen Ellery. Brad was the innocent party there, though. We get on with it. Jason Bargwanna continues to lead this race from Team Kiwis. Jason Richards, but just again repeating that neither of these two drivers have completed their pit stop.
And as you pointed out before, Lee, tough break for Jason and the Valvoline team, because they hung out a little bit too long. Here's Bradley on the inside of Ellery.
Oh, we didn't see that earlier.
no, we didn't.
Now watch for the payback.
Look at this, watch.
Under brakes into the next turn.
No, look, what?
Book.
Contact with Bernard.
And then another one, bang.
Now watch. Lovely. Bradley did a good job, didn't he? Because he turned left and came back on the circuit behind.
Like he was on his way to the Dandenongs for a moment there.
Just as Ellery hit everybody in the field there.
Brad pays a heavy price there. He's gone right up into the grass and to rejoin the race right at the back of the field. Here's the battle for the lead, though. Jason Bargwanna, Jason Richards.
Fox, he's
Whoa! Rodney Forbes.
Oh, whoa! Anthony Trey did a good job to miss that, didn't he?
He sure did.
This is just an indication of how slippery it's getting out there, how bad the vision is. All these cars coming off left, right and centre.
It just turns into an ice skating rink. It's so hard. I mean, Paul Radisich summed it up there beautifully before. It just, you've got no idea watching on television just how little visibility there is. There is the visibility out of the cars. That gives you some of an idea. Out of the cars is shocking, and the grip available is minuscule.
John Panozzo and the team at Gary Rogers Motorsport tell me that they have changed the setup on Jason Bargwanna's car between this morning's race, or the earlier race I should say, and this one. And Jason's reporting that it's handling really well in the wet conditions. Now, given what happened with the safety car there, they are going to keep him out as long as possible at this stage and try and stretch it almost to the end of the window.
Well, who knows what can happen. We've got such a long way to go, but...
Well, he was so badly trapped by being out there when all of a sudden the safety car came, but if he continues to lead it like he is at the moment and make a gap, then who knows? Well, here's more cars. Scaife. Stephen Richards is involved. This is getting crazy. It's getting silly. This is coming up to the final corner. Scaife's pointing the wrong way. There's Rodney Forbes, who is pointing the right way again after his excursion. Bradley went off before at turn 2.
He's got damage to the front end of this car as well. How bad it is, we don't yet know.
Pretty bad.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Well, the interesting thing here, Marcus Ambrose is the first of the cars that's made its compulsory stop. He's in 3rd position. He's only about 5 or 6 seconds behind Jason Bargwanna, so Ambrose is sitting in the box seat at the moment.
Yeah.
But not the champ. We have not seen it. Barely a scratch on this
go
car.
off. He's going to go off.
Oh, he's gone off.
It's not making any aero downforce at all at the front, so, and there could be bits of fiberglass and rubbish in there, so Mark will be able to hear the thing scraping.
And I'd say that Jeff Gregg will have already told Mark to come on in.
Yeah, I reckon that he'll bring the thing in if it's got terminal front end damage. At a minimum, they'll bring it in and have a look at it, make sure the car is actually safe.
Look at that. That's on the back straight.
Jason Richards is now the race leader. I think Jason Bargwanna is either pitted or Richards has got past him. No, he has pitted. So there's Bargwanna. He's peeled off. Jason Richards now in the Team Kiwi Commodore is leading this one. It's the first time he's ever led a Shell Championship Series race. A great moment for the Kiwis at the final round.
Real tough break for Bargwanna. Started the weekend in 19th. Stunning drive in the first race from 19th to 9th. Finished 7th in the second race and was leading in excess of 40 seconds in this one. That's all disappeared now.
They had a slight problem with the front left when they were putting it on. You might also be able to notice from that shot that Garth Tander's car is here in pit lane. They developed some sort of problem, and Garth is out of the car and none too happy at the moment.
And Mark Scaife's coming in. Let's have a look at the damage on the front of this car, and it's pretty substantial around the front left-hand corner. I understand that if Mark wanted to get a feel for the car on that lap, and if they can repair it, and he'd prefer to get back out there and go, that decision will be made by those looking from the outside, no doubt.
I'll tell you, he's absolutely charging at the moment is Craig Lowndes. He's gone from 16th up to 5th in the space of 3 laps. Gibson Motorsport Ford is absolutely marching through the field, and he's up to 4th in the order.
He switched it off.
That's not the way that Mark Scaife wanted to end this season. Here is the Shell Helix replay. Let's see what we can make of this.
Oh, this is Mark chasing the back of Greg Murphy.
Yep. What happens
and they're
here?
going into the turn 9. He's gone up the inside of Murph.
Gone straight on.
Ah, gone straight on.
Right. What did all the damage, though?
He's probably going to hit something on the way out.
Stephen Richards was involved somewhere. There, Stephen.
That's what did all the damage.
Yeah.
Well, he hit Richo. So just an indication of how slippery it is. Scaife saw him come off there in race 2. It's caught him again in race 3, but he's paid a big price this time. Damage to the car and retirement from the race.
Yeah, it's a very disappointing end too. It had been going so well, but the conditions here are just so treacherous, Mark.
Yeah, that was a silly mistake of mine. I bit up the inside right. I was going to make it okay, and understeered pretty wide and got up on the curb, and I was a bit excited about getting back on the black stuff and spun around, so I ended up hitting Steve Richards. He was the innocent party in the end, so that was a bit dumb. Not a good way to finish our year. I would have really loved to have gone a bit better in that one.
Besides that, though, mate, what are the conditions like out there at the moment? We've asked a couple of people, they just say it's ridiculous almost.
Well, at the restart, you drive down the straight, and at whatever speed, you cannot see a thing. So, you know, it's pretty wild, but as soon as you can get past a couple of blokes, you can actually see, and it's good, and it's fantastic fun. I mean, driving in the wet is bloody good fun, but you just, you know, I mean, you just got to keep your head a bit with it, Rusty, and obviously Scaife didn't do that today.
Keep smiling, but...
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, he's hard on himself, isn't he?
10 out of 10 for honesty, though. Not too many blokes actually tell it as it is, and he admitted to his mistakes.
Look at Lowndes closing in on the back of Todd Kelly. This is the battle for 4th position. Kelly's running 4th. So Lowndes has absolutely bolted through the field.
That's what Mark Scaife was talking about. When you're on your own, he's 100% right. It's I wouldn't be a guy out there that probably doesn't enjoy throwing the cars around, but when you're buried in that mist, it's a nightmare.
Lowndes is the fastest man on the circuit by a mile. A 1:23.6 was his previous lap. Everyone around him running in the 24s and 25s. So he's absolutely on the march in these treacherous conditions.
Well, Garth Tander, car 34 is in the garage. What's happened?
The demister's not working again, Rusty. It happened again. It happened in the second race, and it was working fine for the first part of the race. We had a great pit stop and great strategy, and we jumped from 21st to being about 5th or 6th, and everything was going well. And then during the safety car, the demister stopped working, and it's not worth risking the car or myself out here. I took a stick out and wore at the windscreen last race, but I'm buggered if I'm doing that 2 races in a row.
Hard luck, Garth.
Thanks, mate.
I was good on him.
I was talking to one of the mechanics in there. He said, "Oh yeah, a fuse went." So I said, "Stick a 4-inch nail in it, then." That's the best way out.
We're waiting for Jason Richards to make his pit stop, and once he does, Marcus Ambrose will be the race leader from Greg Murphy. And this man, race 2 winner Todd Kelly. Lowndes is still on the charge from Jason Bright, Steve Ellery. Paul Morris is inside the top 10 from Wheel and Bernard as well. It's been a very, very entertaining race, and we have still got a long way to go. Now, Craig Lowndes was in 3rd, but just as we were coming back from the commercial break, he's run off the circuit. Now this
is a replay, the Shell Helix replay of the earlier passing manoeuvre. This is passing Kelly for 3rd. He's got a better run out of the final corner, and they ran side by side down the front straight, but About a lap later, Craig's run wide, and those positions have now reversed again. And see that Craig's back in the distance. The actual gap between the top 4 is relatively tight. Ambrose, Murphy, Kelly, Lowndes, Jason Bright lurking around in 5th, then Ellery, Morris, Wheel, Ingle, Bernard, and Rick Kelly is 11th, Faulkner, Stevie Richards, Wills, Perkins, Stevie Johnson, Brad Jones down in 17th after the tour of the paddock.
I'm fairly sure it was because Marcus Ambrose just got a little caught up behind Tony Longhurst on that last lap, but Greg Murphy took 0.7 of a second out of him. We'll monitor that. Margin 1st to 2nd, Kelly 4th, Kelly 3rd, Lowndes 4th, Rodney Forbes off the circuit again. Steve Ellery running behind Bright in 6th, Morris, Wheel, Ingle, Bernard. Good job by Rick Kelly, isn't it?
Very good job. And a great job by this man, Marcus Ambrose, who's 25 years of age, originally from Tasmania, now based up on the Gold Coast. And as far as V8 rookies go, he has really done a sensational job in 2001, moulding a new team around and coming to terms with a V8 supercar.
Lowndes is back on the case again with Kelly. This is 2nd, Greg Murphy. Tony Longhurst is down 1 lap, and then the battle for 3rd and 4th unfolding again between the Kmart Commodore and the Gibson Motorsport Ford. Lowndes went off down at Dandenong Road just on the exit. Looked like he went in there a little bit hot. The car seems to be quick. It's toured the paddock a couple of times.
If he can get by Kelly, Murphy's not that far up the road.
Jason Richards from Team Kiwi Racing has just come back into pit lane, not for a scheduled stop. He had to do a stop-go penalty. That's for pit lane speeding, so they've got the quick infringement there. I've also been down and had a word to Keys Wheel from the K&J Thermal team. They're really happy. They've completed a really slick stop.
He set the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap at 1:21.4. So, as Alan pointed out, he's certainly got the speed at the moment, but he's got to find the opportunity. And Todd will be a wake-up to most of the moves. Here's one of them. Can he get it done? Oh, he's locked up. Will it turn?
No. That's what he did last time.
Again. And that's been more costly, though. That has been very costly. He's lost a lot of time there to Todd Kelly.
Now he's back behind Tony Longhurst again. So you can see how hard Lowndes is pushing. He's just
and Ambrose coming up behind you. Richards
right on the limit. Ford in-car camera tells the story. Craig Lowndes, you can see, he is just pushing so hard, and he's driving on what is effectively a skating rink. Goes to the inside, gets Longhurst again, but there's no doubt about the speed of the car.
The car's got terrific speed, but it's just no good being off the road there. And what's happening is that when he comes out of the wheel tracks, there's so little amount of grip available that he just can't pull it up in time. Let's have a look at him dance. And it's very delicate on the throttle in the wet compared to the dry.
Flatten it. Pretty quick one that is, Mark.
See him modulating the brake, just trying to feel the road.
Ooh. The really interesting thing about watching someone drive a V8 supercar, Neil, is the amount of trailing brake. You hold the brake right up to the apex of the turn.
Yeah. Just watch the throttle and the brake modulation. Watch it here. You've got good. That's the reason he's strong in this race. He's got good drive off the corners. He didn't have to adjust the throttle at all then. It was one progressive application. As he came off the Dandenong Road, turn 80, had to have a couple of shots at it. And that's the sign of a car that's working pretty well in the wet. But a lot of modulation of the brake pedal to try and just feel the road. He's right on the limit of the brakes, in and out of it all the time, just to try and get it right to the limit.
It's working very well as he maintains his 4th position and tries to regain that lost ground to Todd Kelly. There is Team Kiwi Racing's Jason Richards.
Rejoined.
Fastest lap of the race now to Ambrose, 21:143.
Jason Richards in 21st place after holding out there, one of the last guys to come in for his compulsory stop.
What you were saying earlier on about Ambrose, Mark, imagine next year. I mean, all of this has been brand new to him. Oh,
Jason looked like Craig, Jason Richards.
Yeah, I mean, every race next year they'll have data, they'll have everything. He's been to the circuits, he's driven a V8 there, so you'd have to, if you're a betting man, you'd have to have a bit of heat on his side.
It's sort of deceptive, you know, when you've got a 25-year-old rookie. There's McConville just getting back onto the track. A 25-year-old rookie in a V8 supercar, but rookie is, it's all relative. I mean, that only applies to V8 supercars. He's got an enormous amount of experience in open-wheeler racing.
I can remember Lee introducing me to Marcus here when he was just going to England. Do you remember?
Yeah, he
was
used to come up and do some Formula Ford commentary with us.
And the amount of gravel coming out of the front of McConville's car.
Oh, that is McConville Corner, that, isn't it? That's where Cam went in there upside down.
Only just picked up the edge of it and managed to grab the throttle in the nick of time and just squeeze out. That was a pretty lucky save there for Cam. And you could see it as he went into turn one, he was on and off the brake pedal, trying to get the front tyres to rotate, but also slow the car down enough so he could steer it.
Jason Bright currently sits in 5th position. Russell Ingall sits in 8th. So with those positions, if they remain as is, Russell Ingall will have that runners-up position in this championship sewn up.
All he has to do, Ingall, is finish in the first 19, and even if Brighty won it, he'd still finish second. Ingall would still finish second.
It's like quite a healthy ding in the side of Jason Bright's car.
Well, Glenn Seaton, you're down here in pit lane. Perhaps not so interested spectator. You'd probably prefer to be out there, I think, wouldn't you? What happened?
I just got down the end of the straight and got my foot on the brake and turned the car sideways. His aquaplane on the water and bumped the fence and ended up in the sand trap. But I'd actually probably prefer to be sitting out here at the moment, I got to tell you, because it's quite treacherous conditions out there. But it's naturally, without the rain coming down now, it's starting to clear a bit. But it would be nicer to be out there now than it was a bit earlier.
Let's talk about that very briefly. With the rain stopping now, it is still pretty wet out there. Will we get a dry line, do you think, by the end of the race?
I don't think you'll get a dry line, but it'll be a much safer situation to be in the straights, because before you're actually getting down the straight in top gear and you're actually wheel spinning in top gear, and that's something that gets the heart going, that's for sure.
Roll on 2002, Glenn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Russell Ingall just sweeps up to 7th position, taking Paul Wheel in the K&J thermal car. An indication of how it's starting to improve slightly. Lowndes has done the fastest lap of the race, a 1:26.2 on the previous lap, and that's the fastest lap we've seen all day. Craig is absolutely on it.
Definitely getting a sort of a water-free. It's, what was it, Neil? It's less wet.
Less wet.
Less wet. A less wet line we're getting now.
Yeah. Russell Ingall's got his wiper back.
Here we go. Speed on the left.
230.
How'd you like to be in those conditions at 247 kilometres an hour?
Yeah.
Fantastic shot this. We look at this at Mount Panorama. And camera over the shoulder of the driver. Gives you a bird's eye view of the Motec dashboard and all the amazing amount of information that's available to the driver.
But while Russell has grabbed that better position, let's highlight the good performance from young Paul Wheel.
Yeah, great.
Who's
really
sitting
good.
in the top 10. That's a pretty good effort. He started 16th and is currently running 8th. So he's halved his position. And a strong run from that small Queensland-based team. And one position further up the road from Ingall is Paul Morris, who maintains his 6th behind Jason Bright.
Quite incredible, the battle between Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy for the lead of this race. It's 3.2 seconds. It's remained virtually static. And despite these slippery conditions, those guys are lapping within 100th or 1/10 of a second of each other each lap. Quite incredible.
David Bernard in the Caltex Haviland Ford currently runs in 9th position. And as we mentioned earlier, if you've just joined us and haven't heard the news that Wayne Gardner will join this team and run in the same colour scheme as this in a limited program next year. Haven't finalised exactly how many races Wayne will do. He certainly will do the Enduros, perhaps about 5 or 6 races in total.
Well, not only is it the final round of the championship, but also the final time that Bridgestone will supply tyres to the V8 Supercars. Have a look at this. This is their tyre garage. Garage sale this Sunday only. I'm here with Graham Brown, affectionately known as Mort. I suppose a bit of a sad time for you, Graham.
Mate, it is a sad time. We've had a fantastic 3 years in supplying the tyres for this category. Totally enjoyed it, and yeah, like there'll be a few tears in the eyes tonight, but quite a big celebration as well.
A few beers, I would say, as well. You got many to get rid of?
Yeah, we've got we're probably left with around about 400 dry tyres and probably 600 wet weather tyres. We couldn't thin it down any more than that, otherwise we ran the risk of not having enough to get us through to the end of the championship.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll still see you from rounds to come in up and down pit lane, no matter what you're doing, Graham. Best of luck.
Thanks very much.
Graham has been on the Australian motorsport scene for many, many years, and to he and Kevin Fitzsimmons, a job well done.
Yeah, that's a really hard act to follow, isn't it? I mean, Dunlop's really got a really difficult act to follow, because when you think they make a tyre that runs in Darwin, Neil, and also runs in Canberra, you know, for certain temperature
Look
difference.
at that. 120.5, fastest lap of the race so far for Jason Richards. So conditions are slowly starting to improve. There's a lot of cars now running in the 1 minute 20 second zone. 124.9 for Simon Wills, so he's just undercut Jason Richards by 100th of a second. This is a great drive. This man sort of following in Jimmy Richards' footsteps in a way. The web-footed Kiwis, they seem to go very well when the rain comes down.
If it continues to be less wet, as we describe it, the PlayStation fastest lap will probably continue to tumble one way or another. Lowndes has just changed that number again down to a 120.4.
3.5 seconds Marcus Ambrose is enjoying, ahead of Greg Murphy, Todd Kelly. So he's doing it comfortably, Marcus. We look at Simon Wills in the Cat Ford. He's a little further down the order. Kiwi is currently occupying 14th position in this race.
When I was talking to Rick Kelly earlier on, I said, did you have any problems? You know, you were quite the way down the field. And he said, no, I didn't have any problems. I just get used to driving a V8 in the wet. I mean,
after spending a lot of all his career in single-seaters, this is kind of like strapping on the Queen Mary. And when you want to change direction, you need to tell it about 10 miles back.
Doing a really good job, though. When you
11th
think,
position.
yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? When you look at, he's in front of the likes of like John Faulkner, Larry Perkins, Stephen Richards, Brad Jones, Barks, poor old Barks.
Well, Bargwana went from 1st to 20th position, and he's worked up to 17th now. So how costly that was, just staying out and then the safety car coming out. Obviously nothing to do with him. Just going through shot car 255. That's young Rick Kelly, the 18-year-old we've been talking about.
Another man headed for a baptism of fire will be Simon Wills' teammate for next year. John Briggs confirming he's already signed Pedro Lamy, the former Formula One and sports car driver, in one of his cars next year. So, boy, he's got a real new education in a very different kind of race car in 2002.
Not surprised to hear that, though, because when I was at the Rockingham Champ Car race, Pedro Lamy was walking around like a lost dog looking for a job. So good to hear that he's coming down here. Murphy's been off the track.
He's back to 4th, so that puts Lowndes up to 3rd. It must have been a bit of a moment because Craig has been able to get in front of him. So Murphy goes down to 4th, just an indication. These top guys still managing to slide off every now and again.
Lowndes lowering the fastest lap, the PlayStation fastest lap again to 120.2.
So Lowndes continuing his relentless pursuit, driving the wheels off this Falcon in the worst conditions imaginable. Pushing very, very hard.
Pretty costly for Greg Murphy. He's gone from 2nd to 4th. And is now some 9, even 10 seconds behind Marcus Ambrose, whereas that margin was only a little over 3.
Now Lowndes is just over a second behind Todd Kelly, who's in 2nd place, and he's only about 5 seconds down the road from Ambrose, so it could still be quite a thrilling finish. Here we are, and here it's not a second now. Lowndes is absolutely on the bumper of Todd Kelly.
It's been going on all afternoon, hasn't it? He's kind of he must think there's about 5 number 15 Kmart Commodores out there.
So Lowndes now sits in the slipstream of the Kmart Commodore as they flash past the grandstand. The Ford fans and the Holden fans are loving this battle. Absolutely incredible stuff from the top V8 supercar drivers in the country. On board with Craig Lowndes. He's in 3rd. And he's got Todd Kelly well within his gun sights.
15 laps to go.
He's been man of the match, Todd Kelly, hasn't he? I reckon he's done a really solid job. He's just on the road, neat and clean. It's a very strong weekend. He opened up the weekend with fastest time in qualifying on Friday, and he has done a brilliant job this weekend.
All he has to do is maintain his position, and he will, well, he's got this round by the scruff of the neck. He will win this round the way he's going at the moment.
The race has been really good, really entertaining. I look at it, I think, wow, you'd be sure they'd be done more than 34 laps, wouldn't you? It seems to have gone on forever.
On board with Lowndes. They come down through Victoria Bitter turn.
And just to give us a bit better view out of the front of the Gibson Motorsport Falcon, the boys actually made an alteration to the wiper, and so that it sweeps further to the left.
With some of your influence, no doubt.
Well, actually, no, because you can't see the apex of the left-hand corners at the moment, so they made the sweep wiper.
Sweep wiper.
Yeah.
It's interesting to listen to the radio in Todd Kelly's car. Initially, when Craig Lowndes made an attack on him earlier on, the instructions were don't fight him, don't wrestle him, let him go past. I wonder whether this will be the case now towards the end of the race.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Todd Kelly staring down the barrel of a round win here. So he's got to keep it cool. And he's certainly kept it cool all day. That drive in race 2 of a 3-race weekend this morning was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, there is no real reason for Todd to fight and stay there. He's got the round sewn up. Ambrose is 3.6 seconds up the road. That's going to be hard to retrieve to reduce that margin.
Well, it was out to 5.1.
Yeah, it was 5, I was going to say. Must have got held up somewhere, Marcus.
Well, the last lap around, Ambrose did a 1:21.9, and the other guys were in the mid-20s, so could have been traffic, may have been a moment, but Ambrose, the gap now to the lead is down to 3.5 seconds. Look at Lowndes here, filling up the mirrors of this Kmart car, and he's not going to fall into this trap again. He's tried that twice down there and it hasn't paid off. He's got to find somewhere else to put a move on Todd. Todd Kelly now, after several seasons in V8 Supercar, he's pretty wise to some of the moves that go on out there. So Lowndes is going to have to work for his supper here.
Bit of wheel spin that time.
Great job.
And Todd just getting off the corner without that wheel spin. You can see that he's just jumped out a couple of car lengths there. So
I think anyone at home, if they don't drive these cars, Neil, could comprehend the level of difficulty when you're driving at more than double the speed you would on a motorway, say, when it's raining. It's just quite extraordinary.
The worst of the vision. When I raced touring cars, I drove in the rain. I could not believe that you couldn't see where you were going. I thought it's incredible.
It's very awkward.
Frightening.
I think the...
Well, I'll tell you what, the gap between these two and Ambrose is down to under 3 seconds now. 2.6.
Wow. It's exactly a full second in one lap, isn't it?
Well, Ambrose has done another 1:21. The cars behind him a full second faster, so I don't know if Marcus is in trouble.
The key word is delicacy. You've just got to be so gentle, and most of the drivers find it hard in the early stages to curb their natural exuberance in the car to be able to drive in the wet. The tyres relative to the horsepower are pretty small. Not a lot of aero downforce on these cars, despite popular myth. And bottom line is they break into wheel spin real easy.
This is an absorbing contest. This is a fantastic way to finish the 2001 V8 Supercar season. Look at how much.
Todd got a bit wide at turn 9. He just understeered a bit wider.
12 laps to go.
It'll be interesting to see how Marcus Ambrose responds to this as they're eating in. It's gone down another 3/10, so down to 2.3 seconds the margin between the Pertec Falcon, the Kmart Commodore, and Lowndes continues to push Kelly all the way.
Maybe Marcus is just starting to really lose the edge off his wets, and it can really affect your traction because there's 3 locations around here where that's just vital. And
yes,
difficult moment because you know, Anthony, everybody out there who may be getting under pressure or lapped at the moment, a lot of them don't run a left-hand mirror, which I can never understand.
What?
But well, I don't know. See, Marcus does, but Craig, for example, and other drivers I know, Wayne Gardner, don't like the left-hand mirrors at all. But it makes it hard when anybody goes up the inside of you on a day like today. Yeah. Very, very difficult to see. So it's a very difficult job for those being lapped not to accidentally turn into another car.
Lowndes continues to crowd the Kmart Commodore. They're coming up on Anthony Tratt and the Toll Falcon as we grind on. The Gibson Motorsport AUXR8 slotted up the inside, and I'd say that there was a little bit there from Todd Kelly allowing Craig Lowndes to go by as well and not take that fight up any further.
Well, no point. He wanted the championship win, or the championship round win here, so he didn't want to throw it all away.
I think I just heard Todd say, I'll let him go on purpose.
But look at this, 1.8 seconds is now the margin between Marcus Ambrose and Craig Lowndes. Lowndes is really on a mission.
This is a little perplexing because I've had a word to Paul Forgy and the team at Stone Brothers. They tell me there's no real dramas for Marcus. He's not complaining about his neck. He doesn't seem to think the tyres have gone off, so not quite sure. He's just doing his best to keep Lowndes at bay. And to expand on the other point between Lowndes and Todd Kelly, the pass that he made, there was a little bit of finger pointing going on down here in pit lane between the various team managers. At one point, they thought Todd Kelly's brake lights, rear brake lights, weren't working, but they seem to be working fine now.
Yeah, we had a shot earlier and they're certainly working just fine, but this is where we are focusing this battle first to second. Fords 1 and 2, Ambrose and Lowndes, and the gap, that's what we're monitoring. It was 1.8 seconds on the last lap. How much has Craig Lowndes taken out, if any, on this lap?
With a face of determination here. 3 times Shell Series champion and staring down the barrel of a very successful finish to his first season with the Blue Oval. Look at how cool he is in the car. It's amazing when he gets out of the car. He's barely got a bead of sweat on him. Very relaxed behind the wheel as he tries to hunt down Marcus Ambrose. 1.5 now, so he's really closing in on the Pertec Falcon. Great battle to the wire between the two forwards.
Been a very, very impressive run by both drivers. Updating you, Murphy has dropped back 2 more positions. Bright is now 4th, Morris is 5th. That's a strong run by the Big Kev racer. Now, is Greg Murphy in trouble? He is dropping down the order. Ingle is 6th. Murphy is yet to have come across the start-finish line. At one stage, as high as 2nd.
Murphy's actually coming to the pits. Murphy has pitted, so problems there for the Kmart Commodore. He was looking very strong.
See, Marcus is saying, speak to me on the front straight slowly and clearly.
Yeah.
Well, he's having trouble seeing Craig behind him. I'm pretty sure he'd have a good view of him now. Of course, that car being in that black and silver colour scheme without particularly bright headlights, it'd probably be very hard to pick up in the spray. So Lowndes just sneaking around almost stealth-like behind the Pertec Falcon. Let's see if he can close the gap. 41 laps, 42 or 48.
There must be a real...
He's asking where he's catching him.
1.2 seconds now the margin, so another 0.3 of a second have gone between Ambrose and Lowndes, and time is running out. But there is certainly enough time for Craig Lowndes, if he continues to catch him at that rate, to certainly get up with the Pertec Ford and buy it.
Neil, that's a really difficult situation to be in. If you can't see the guy that's behind, isn't it? It's even more perplexing because you're looking both sides in the back and you can't see.
And when he gets very close, you've got to be so careful you don't turn down on him. That's the difficulty.
And
hard.
Whilst there's been so many fabulous drives, I think star of this race, that's for sure, has been 18-year-old Rick Kelly. He's up into 8th position, and this is his first full round in a V8 supercar. Did the Queensland 500, but the car didn't start. Did the V8 supercar 1000, sharing the Kmart Commodore with Nathan Pretty. This is his first drive all by himself, and that's a fine effort.
Finished in the top 20, maybe in the top 15 from memory at Mount Panorama, so he's made a pretty healthy debut in V8 supercars. Just 18 years of age, could be the beginning of something of a Kelly dynasty at TWR.
What a rich black smoke coming out of Marcus's car, isn't it?
Always does. The Stone Brothers cars always do it.
Lowndes just closing on his prey. It's under a second now, 0.7. Murphy's out of the car, so major problems there for the Kmart Commodore after such a strong run earlier on. This is where the action is. These two Fords fighting it out right down to the close of play. 0.72 of a second it was last time across the straight.
The awkward part is if he can get to the back of him, where does he get by without going onto a greasy bit of road to try and do it?
I'd say at the end of the back straight if he gets a really good run out of this here.
Certainly appears to have slightly better traction than Marcus.
PlayStation fastest lap now goes to Paul Morris at a 1:19.8.
Just had a word to Greg Murphy, and he was saying he was suffering a rather violent vibration in the car, something within the driveline. He said he just had to come in or it was all going to come loose and break down, so that was the only choice he really had, was to park it in the garage and end his day.
Get ready for it. Here comes Lowndes. There is nothing between them now. Lowndes is right on the back of Marcus Ambrose.
Got a lot of wheel spin exiting Dandenong Road, then just lost the advantage that he made up under brakes. Not unusual for, remember I mentioned yesterday, not unusual at Sandown to have transmission-related things. And remember, in total, this is nearly 500 kilometres of racing, a long way.
4 laps remaining for race leader Marcus Ambrose. He's got Craig Lowndes filling his mirrors. Left, right and centre as they come down the main straight in front of the grandstand. Who's going to win this? Lowndes sets up for a pass on the inside. Not quite close enough. Ambrose goes a little bit deeper under brakes. So Lowndes pulls the nose of the Ford back in. He's going to try again later on.
No V8 supercar wins alongside Marcus Ambrose's name in terms of a race. He has won a round before, but never a race. And as for Lowndes, as far as his turn in a Falcon, well, just that one race win earlier this year at Adelaide.
good run out of this, I reckon, at the end of this.
Plenty of incentive, though, Baz, for Marcus Ambrose to win this race.
I totally agree.
And Todd,
look here, have a look at this.
Todd Kelly be hoping the two of them fumble each other. And,
yeah, exactly.
Look at this. Loundes goes up the outside now. 250 k's on the approach to the S's. He's got him well and truly. Ambrose tries to fight back on the inside, but no. Loundes has got position. So Loundes goes through to take the lead. Incredible fight back from far down to 16th when they restarted this race. He came marching through the field in the space of 3 laps. He went from 16th up to 5th, and he slowly picked them off one by one, including a couple of incidents that's taken him right off the circuit.
Well, Marcus is hanging on. Oh, he's got up the inside of him.
Yes,
he got him.
Got him. What a move. Well, he definitely knows where he is now, doesn't he?
Cannot afford to be napping with Marcus Ambrose sniffing around your tail. 3 laps remaining. He's so pumped up. There's Natalie Loundes. Craig Loundes' wife, Oscar Fiorinato, chief engineer in front. Boy, there's plenty of nervous people standing in these 2 pit garages now with laps unfolding.
That was a very good move, wasn't it? Really?
He's got a lot of confidence in the grip of this car, Ambrose, if he decided to dive back there. And he caught Loundes napping a bit, I think. I think Craig thought he had it.
Oh, there was a touch there.
Certainly was. Tries to go up the inside, does go up the inside. Now back in front in the Gibson Motorsport Ford. Watch Ambrose respond.
I told you Todd Kelly would buy into this, didn't I?
Yeah, really. I'll have a piece of this.
You can hear the crowd in the grandstand are going nuts. And there's plenty of people with a pretty high heart rate in the pits as well.
I wonder if they're going to do anything about that touch.
Well, that's an interesting one because he did unseat him, didn't he?
Definitely, no doubt whatsoever about that.
Okay, mate, just keep on going. Keep on going. 3 laps remaining.
Ross Stone on the radio.
Marcus Ambrose, he said all year, oh boy, I really want to win a race. I know I won a round, but I'd love to get a race in my bag.
Paul Forgey's also been having a word to Marcus Ambrose. They're telling him if you can maintain the pressure, the cheers that went up when he came to this part of the circuit, the last lap around inside this pit were incredible.
2 laps remaining, just over 6 kilometres of racing at Sandown Raceway. What an incredible weekend it's been. Amazing stuff. And look at Loundes now streaking away. The Ford flags are flying.
He's got enormous pace in the car and he's driving it fast and aggressively, but I don't know that anyone's going to be able to respond.
1.1 seconds the gap he's put on Ambrose in that lap alone.
That's a lot. That's a big gap.
So he's just going to keep it cool now. This car, the setup on the car particularly, just goes to show, Neil, we think of the bad races that Craig's had where the car's setup hasn't been at its optimum. You're always running around the back 10 or 15. You can look pretty ordinary. If the car's not right, you can't do your stuff, can you?
That's exactly right.
Another 2 laps, mate. Another 2 laps. We've got a group of cars, maybe 6 car lengths behind you. Keep on going. Speed 20.
Some reassuring words from the pit. Meanwhile, it's looking good for this man.
Once you reach a certain level, Mark, and there's probably 15 or more guys out there that are at or very close to the highest racing car level in the world, and it really gets down to the machinery around you and the group of people that you work with and how you maximise every element of performance of the car. And at any different point you can study this championship and you'll look at different drivers and teams have had some shockers here and there. But if you get all the numbers right and get the car set up well, then away you go. 1 lap to go.
Talking about having a car wrapped around you, you've just been happy to have a car wrapped around you.
Yeah, I don't like this. It's stressful.
This is it. 1.6 seconds the margin. That's going to be tough for the Pertec Ford to catch up. Kelly remains 3rd, but Loundes, what a drive. He's come from behind pretty much all weekend. The first race started 14th, finished 2nd. Strong result in the 2nd as well.
I think all 3 of these guys deserve reward today because all 3 of them have done a great job. We've seen some great passing moves, tremendous car control, and they've pressed on as though it was a dry race and used everything that the car had to offer.
We've had some really good races here this weekend, haven't we? Really
Very much so.
Excellent.
Good format, good distance.
Oh, look at
challenging
Kelly.
enough, and look at this. Kelly is not happy to settle for 3rd on the final lap. Pressuring Ambrose. We are nearing the end of the V8 Ultimate, and it's been it's been a challenging year for Craig Loundes.
Somebody off on the outside down there. I think it might be Stephen Richards.
Parked in the sand. So a tough race for both FTR Falcons. You have to feel a little sorry for Marcus Ambrose that he's not going to get his maiden V8 Supercar win. But for Craig Loundes, he's endured it and he wins the final race of 2001. Ends the year on a high note for Gibson Motorsport. And Marcus Ambrose comes across the line for second. Kelly in for third, and Todd Kelly has won the round. Lowndes wins the final race of the year, but Todd Kelly picks up his maiden round win. So plenty to celebrate for many. Congratulations to Todd Kelly. And back-to-back round wins for the Kmart organisation. Murphy in New Zealand and Kelly here at Sandown.
Well, that'll be a huge relief for Craig and for the crew at Gibson Motorsport. And I'm sure it's quietly a proud moment for Jeff Polides from the Ford Motor Company as well, as Ford have continued their climb back through the championship this year. And as Mark Scaife said earlier on, they have offered more competition this year, and I think that's a healthy thing for the Shell Championship Series.
Last year they were top three, weren't they? Radicic, Ellery and was it Radicic? Yeah, the top three last year.
And we should point out too that with 6th place in the final race, Russell Ingall has wrapped up second in the championship.
The team down here at Stone Brothers Racing are far from pleased about this result. They don't want to settle for second. Marcus has been on the radio already and said, get the officials to look at that pass that Craig Lowndes made on me. He is adamant that he's been hard done by. This may not be over yet.
What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah,
be interesting
not disagreeing with that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have a look at a replay and see whether Marcus was out of shape or whether or not he was pushed out of shape. Certainly, whenever you're the one that... Whenever you're the one that comes off second best, you're never happy about it. And make no mistake, each of these drivers, and indeed all the teams, are aggressive about their business. This is not a gentle situation. This will be interesting to see what the body language is like between these two.
There's the wife of Craig Lowndes, Natalie, making her way down. Just watch Marcus Ambrose's response here. Shake hands.
Yeah. They're both a couple of gentlemen, actually, aren't they, really?
Great response from the crowd here on the main straight at Sandown. And that's pleasing for Lowndes. John Davison, the promoter here at Sandown.
Yeah, have a look here.
Let's watch this Shell Helix replay. Lowndes coming in hot from behind.
Bang, there you go. Yeah. Say that was a tap. You know?
Oh, there's no doubt that he's made contact with him, but yeah, I don't know. Hard one to call, but
especially when it's your teammate.
And especially when it's your teammate. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think
relief and celebration for the Gibson Motorsport team as the champion walks on by Mark Scaife. Many, many reasons to celebrate. A very interesting series for that man there. Craig Lowndes, his first full season for Ford. Ambrose followed him home, Kelly in third, and that was enough to get the toddler his first round win. Jason Bright in for fourth. Paul Morris, well done. The big Kev racer in the top 5. Ingall, Rick Kelly, that's an outstanding effort in 7th, and Larry Perkins. Wills, Faulkner, Brad Jones fought his way forward, and Barguana very much hard done by in that one to finish 12th. Look at the positions a little further back. Larkham in 18th. Looking forward to a new season and a new sponsor next year. McConville, and then we get into the non-finishers, starting with Mark Scaife, Dougal McDougall, all the way back to Matthew White.